have some breaking news. This comes a day after a difficult couple of days on Capitol Hill in both the House and the Senate for Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary. She is being replaced. Senator Markwayne Mullin is now going to take over her job. The president making the announcement on Truth Social just a short time ago. He writes, quote, "I am pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security effective March 31st of this month. Of this year. The current Secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, which is a new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere that they're announcing on Saturday at Doral in Florida. The president says, "I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland."
Something unexpected unfolded in Washington this week. After days of tense hearings on Capitol Hill, the head of the United States Department of Homeland Security suddenly lost her job. The announcement came directly from the president. The Homeland Security Secretary would be replaced by a sitting U.S. senator.
The president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do this?
Yes.
He did. I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that.
No warning, no gradual transition, just a sudden reshuffle at the top of one of the most powerful security departments in the country. And the question now circulating through Washington is simple. What actually happened behind the scenes that forced this change? The controversy centers on the now former Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, who had faced several difficult days of questioning on Capitol Hill. Members of Congress pressed her on a series of issues involving the management of the department. One of the most sensitive topics involved a large government-funded advertising campaign, reportedly worth around $220 million, promoting security initiatives. The advertisements featured the secretary prominently and were broadcast across the country. Lawmakers wanted to know who approved the spending. During testimony, the secretary told senators that the campaign had gone through the proper processes and had ultimately been approved at the highest level of the administration. That response raised eyebrows immediately, because if true, it suggested the decision had been authorized by the president himself, Donald Trump, and that is where the political temperature in Washington began to rise. During a Senate hearing, one exchange stood out. A senator pressed the secretary on whether the president had personally signed off on the expensive advertising campaign. She answered calmly. Yes, she said, the president had approved it. That single statement seemed to shift the tone of the entire discussion, because suddenly the issue was no longer just about government spending. It was about whether the White House itself had authorized a massive promotional campaign featuring a cabinet secretary. For critics, it raised uncomfortable questions about the use of taxpayer money. For the administration, it created a political problem. And shortly afterwards, the president made his decision. In a statement posted on social media, the president announced that Markwayne Mullin would become the new Secretary of Homeland Security, effective at the end of the month. The outgoing secretary, meanwhile, would move into a newly created role described as Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas. According to the administration, this initiative is meant to strengthen security cooperation across the Western Hemisphere. Officially, the statement thanked her for her service and praised her work on border policy. But in Washington, political observers quickly began asking whether the move was truly a promotion or simply a diplomatic way of pushing a controversial figure out of a high-profile position. The timing certainly raised questions. Her removal came immediately after intense congressional scrutiny, and the Senate hearings themselves had exposed several disputes inside the department. Lawmakers had also raised concerns about the influence of outside advisors, internal management decisions, and the handling of disaster relief programs. None of those issues alone seemed to trigger the change, but together they created a political storm that the administration may have decided was no longer worth defending.
afternoon, everybody. How are you? Good. And Tony's doing a good job, isn't he? He's doing a fantastic job. Well, thank you for giving me the honor and the blessing of getting to come and spend some from the bottom of my heart and my family's heart. I want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you do to keep people safe and to uphold your oath to be out in our communities, protecting people from public safety threats, but also being an example to our next generation of Americans. Our kids and our grandkids are desperate for examples to look up to. And the way that you lead, the way that you enforce the law, and the way that you do it with compassion, but also firmness, sets an example for how we want all Americans to live their lives. So just thank you for that, and know that we pray for you, that God will have his hand on you and your families and continue to bless you as you do your work. Listen, I'd like to thank everybody who's hosted me today. I know we've got a host of leaders that are here. We just met with Vince backstage a little bit and talked with him a little bit. Tony obviously has been very helpful. Michael, who is from the New York State Chief of Department, Mark Ross, Craig Miller. We've got Craig Lally as well. And then the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police Recording Secretary Rob is here. And then Rochester Police Locust Club President Jeff is with us as well. But would you give all of those individuals who stepped up into a leadership position a round of applause for what they do to bring everybody together?
The bigger political implication. Replacing the head of Homeland Security is never a minor event. The department oversees border protection, immigration enforcement, counterterrorism coordination, and disaster response across the United States. It employs more than 250,000 people. Any leadership change at the top inevitably sends ripples through the entire national security system. The choice of Markwayne Mullin also carries political significance. As a sitting senator and close ally of the president, he is seen as someone trusted by the White House. Supporters argue that bringing in a loyal political figure could help stabilize the department during a turbulent period. Critics, however, question whether a political appointment without extensive Homeland Security experience will calm the controversy or deepen it. And beyond Washington, the episode highlights a broader truth about modern politics. In highly polarized environments, cabinet positions can change quickly when public scrutiny intensifies. What begins as a routine hearing can suddenly escalate into a full political crisis. So where does this leave the administration? First, attention will turn to the confirmation process for the new secretary. Even though Markwayne Mullin already serves in the Senate, moving into a cabinet position means stepping into a role responsible for some of the most sensitive operations in the United States government. Lawmakers will almost certainly question him about the same issues that surrounded his predecessor. Second, there is the future of the Shield of America's initiative. Is it genuinely a major new regional security project, or was the role created quickly to ease the transition of a departing cabinet member? And finally, there is the political question hovering over the entire situation. Was this a routine reshuffle, or a quiet acknowledgement that the controversy around the department had become politically unsustainable? In Washington, leadership changes are rarely as simple as they appear in official statements. Behind every announcement lies a mix of political pressure, public perception, and strategic calculation. The departure of Kristi Noem from the Department of Homeland Security may be presented as a transition to a new mission, but the events leading up to it, the congressional hearings, the questions over spending, and the sudden replacement suggest a deeper story about accountability, power, and political survival in modern government. And as the new secretary prepares to take office, one question remains quietly hanging over the entire episode. Was this the end of a controversy, or only the beginning of a much larger political battle in Washington?